Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Nicole Sauce's Thought of the Walk. It's been a little while since I recorded one of these, and I thought today was the perfect day to do it. I don't know if we'll still call these Thought of the Walk. My entire routine got a little bit changed in January. I got COVID about day 3, so I was feeling better by day 3. Watched a movie. Dog hadn't come home because she ran off in the afternoon. One was home, one was not. And Cece showed up at about 11 o'clock with a very large cut. It went from her hip all the way to her groin, which is more than 8 inches. It was deep. It was not, so it was a straight cut, as in sharp straight, but it was square shaped. So whatever she hit, I think maybe it was really sharp edge of roofing up in the woods or some barbed wire or something. Well, let's just say it's a big cut. It had taken her a little while to get home. There was leaves and dirt all up in there. And took her, well, I didn't take her. I had to have a friend take her to the emergency vet because I was still in the don't pass your COVID on phase of COVID. And she ended up getting put under, and they packed it. They couldn't stitch it because the skin around the edges had died. And it's also in an area that moves a lot. So we are now 6 or 7 weeks later from that. She still has an open wound. She's been growing skin. I've been feeding her collagen in the form of dog bone broth. That's bone broth I make without onions or garlic for her. And I just put a little bit out on her food every day, twice a day. I'm not sure she'll ever eat food without bone broth again. And what this means is that my morning routine has been replaced, my morning walk has been replaced with morning wound care. And we're just about at the end of that. I'm super excited. I put her out of a cone and into a pair of pants we made for her out of it. Well, I made for her out of a t-shirt. And soon the walks will start again. So now in order to walk, I need to do it at a different time of day. It used to be get up, coffee, read a little bit of something informative, go for the walk, come back, knock out the morning routine. Guys, sometimes you don't stick to your morning routine. And I sacrifice my walk time in favor of jumping into my productivity time, because if I add a walk on top of the wound care, which has to happen, then I end up starting podcast notes and coffee roasting and all that stuff late. But you may be wondering why you're looking at this beautiful cup of hollow roast coffee. This cup comes from Stuttgart, Germany. You can't really see it very well, but there's some etching here that's worn out. I got it in the 90s at the Christmas market when I lived there. Not in Stuttgart, but I lived in Germany. I don't know why this one's worn out so much. I was looking this morning. The etching's really worn on it. My other one, you can totally tell it's the Stuttgart Christmas market. And a jar of tomato sauce. And actually in the background, I have my freeze-dried smoked chilies. Yesterday, I didn't know what to cook for dinner, and the chicken I wanted to cook was not defrosted, and I've just been leaving it in the fridge. And I could have sped up defrosting, but I wanted to focus on other things. So I grabbed some ground beef, and I grabbed a packet of Melissa's, it's called Tennessee Grill Spice Mix, Melissa White from Honeybee's Kitchen. She does great spice mixes. And they don't have salt in them, so you get like straight up spice mix and there's no desiccant, so it doesn't have an anti-clumping agent in it, which means you just get the herbs. They're great. I love them. And she gave me a whole sampler pack of those at Self-Reliance Festival, and I found this one, and I put, I sauteed up the beef. I used dehydrated onions instead of cut onions. I used garlic powder and that mix, and then I added a jar of my homemade salsa from the summer, and this right here, this jar of tomato sauce was next to it on top of a cabinet. And it's the last 2 things up there. And I said, Tactical, hey, can you do me a favor? Grab me both those things down, because then that's all cleared out and I'll just use that jar of tomato sauce. First, he put them on the counter. I used the salsa, no problem. And then guess what? You hear that? This jar is not sealed. That's right. I don't know why it didn't seal, but I thought I'd show you what I do when a jar is not sealed. So you can tell if it was sealed, that wouldn't be happening. That would be sucked down and it would make a real tight noise. It's sort of like a thunk. Well, but the jar lid's stuck on. What's that mean? That means oxygen's gotten up under there, and that's bad because that means then bacteria can grow in here. Well, like what probably happened is during the canning process, a little bit of tomato got up under there. It doesn't really matter why. Every so often this happens. It can happen because there's a chip around the rim. It can happen because the rubber is just faulty, which I've been seeing more faulty lids since all of the run on canning. I see some bits of food up here where it boiled up. Could have been that. I don't know why it happened. I smell it. It smells like tomato sauce. Am I going to eat this? F. No. Now let's talk about the risks in this jar of tomato sauce. It is not a risk of botulism. Why? Because I brought the pH down below what it needed to be, so it's a high acid environment. And that means that botulism can't grow, because what botulism needs to grow is a low acid environment, oxygen free, and wet. Well, this is oxygen free and wet. It wasn't exactly oxygen free, but under the surface of here it is. But it was high acid because I added citric acid to this jar just to make sure the pH would fall down. But so 4.6 is the magic number. I brought it down to 4.4 or 4.2. And that means botulism can't grow. But other things can grow. What I'm surprised at right now is there's no visible mold on top. But what there is a strange looking layer of liquid that's a funny color. Not terrible. And there's black bits down below, and that's probably mold. And if there's mold anywhere in your jar, there's mold everywhere in your jar. So I would not eat this. Would I feed it to the pigs? No. I'm not feeding this to any animal. I'm not eating this. What I'm going to do is dump this in my compost pile and cover it with wood chips, and it will fertilize my garden in years to come. This happens to me maybe once every 2 years. I get a jar like that, and it's usually something tomato based, which tells me that when it's going to I may have overfilled this jar. I don't know what happened, but I mean, because the head space looks a little bit bigger than I usually do. I would have brought the head space so it was an inch, but that could just have happened. It may have boiled over or something. All I know is it didn't work. That's what you do. Keep calm and don't eat it. When in doubt, throw it out. You can compost that and build it back into your system, no problem. Hope you found this informative. Make it a great week.